what do you do? And then I started telling them about the problems I was trying to address. I could see their eyes, like, I don't know, glowing and being like, wow, I wish I could use my skills to solve those sort of problems and not just to make more Google ads or whatever.
Let's face it, we all know the importance of a good, balanced nutrition diet. But the truth is, it can get really challenging to get all the nutrients you need every single day when you're running a very busy lifestyle or even running your own business. And if you're anything like me, you probably don't want to resort to a multivitamin pill that is filled with chemicals, binders, and artificial ingredients. This is why I'm so glad that I found Vivo Life's Thrive. It's a revolutionary health supplement that has all the power of a multivitamin, but that is made with 100% plant-based and natural ingredients that you can actually pronounce and actually recognize. Things like kale, turmeric, baobab, or even spinach. It's been backed by over 50 independent studies and was actually formulated by a nutritionist. That's why each scoop holds the antioxidant equivalent of 10 servings of fruit and vegetables, along with 15 essential minerals and vitamins, including B12, vitamin D, and zinc. The truth is, you just never know what your day is going to be like. That's why I just make it really easy and simple for myself. I add a scoop in either some water, my shakes, or my tea. It's delicious, it's nutritious, and it gets me focused for the rest of the day, and my energy levels have never been better. And here's the best part in it all. Vivo Life are so confident in the quality of the product that they took over 5 years to design that if you're not satisfied after 30 days, they'll give you a full refund, no questions asked, and you can even keep the product. If you want to try Thrive for yourself, you can go over to www.vivolife.co.uk and use the promo code MARK to get 10% off your first order. Podcasting is one of the most effective ways to grow your business, build an audience, and give your brand a voice. But the idea of launching can frankly feel a little daunting. What kind of gear or software should you use? What if you don't like the sound of your own voice? How to get great guests to come on the show? And how do you get people to actually listen once you've published your podcast? Well, you could go and find out on your own through trial and error, and that might take you forever. Or you could save yourself a ton of time and a ton of money by grabbing a spot on my brand new online video course, How to Go From Naught to Launch, that you can take from the comfort of your own home. That's right, I've made the process of launching a successful podcast from scratch super easy. So if you're ready and you want to stop wasting time, head over to theunconventionalists.com, click on online courses, and grab yourself a seat and use the discount code PODCASTTRIBE to get 20% off the entire program. I can't wait to see you in there, but more importantly, I can't wait to listen to your podcast. Hi, and welcome to the Unconventionalists podcast. I'm your host, Mark Leruste, and this is the show about what it's really like to turn your message into a movement. Now, if you follow the news and if you've been hearing about, especially around climate change and what are some of the biggest challenges that are going to be facing humanity in the years to come, then you're probably no stranger to the idea that we have something happening where people are being forcibly removed from their countries of origin and moving across borders for safety and harbor. But with that comes challenges. And that's why I'm so excited today to talk to a founder, to an entrepreneur who's trying to find a way to solve that problem by using technology and giving a face to humanity. And I'm, of course, talking about Leti Galdón, the founder of Bath. Thank you for joining me, and welcome to the show.
Thanks.
How are you doing?
I'm great, really excited.
Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have said bienvenido.
Bienvenida.
Bienvenida.
Yeah.
Really, because it's feminine?
Yeah, because I'm a woman.
So even if I'm a man, I would say bienvenida to you.
Yeah, to me. And if I was a man,
I'd say bienvenido.
Bienvenido. Yeah.
There you go. You learn something every day.
Yeah.
School day every day. Cool. So how will we introduce? Someone introduced us by email. I forgot who it was. Do you remember who it was?
Alvaro, my co-founder.
Ah, but how does he know me?
Yeah, through Marlon.
Okay. Yeah.
And this was for Minerva University. They were asking you to become a partner.
Gosh, okay.
And then,
Such a small world.
yeah.
Such a small world. Cool. So look, and then I had a quick look at what you did, and I just thought, look, let's get you on the show. Let's talk about this, because this is something that people need to hear, people need to listen to. And effectively, you know, just again, you said before we walked in, it's like, oh, you got a piece of paper with some numbers, you know, the numbers. But I was looking at it, and it's crazy. We've got like a world record of people who are being forcibly removed. And one of the big differentiations I want to talk about are refugees versus migrants, because I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between those two. So I'd love to hear about that. But also look at your kind of journey. You did a master's, right? In was it violence? And so tell us a bit more about that. Like, how did you even end up in that?
Yeah, so my background is in social work
Yeah.
and international relations. I did 2 undergrads.
Okay.
And when I was doing my first internship in the International Committee of the Red Cross, I was directly working with people affected by war and violence. And I was working a program searching for missing migrants and refugees.
Okay.
And when I was working there, I realized how big of a problem this was for Europe. This was 2015 when Syrians were starting to arrive to Europe. And I was frustrated to see a lack of sustainable solutions offered to these people who cannot go back. And we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to specialize on it. So I went to SOAS. I studied the Masters on Violence. What is it? Violence, conflicts, and development.
Okay.
And yeah, that's how it all started.
Wow. Okay, cool. Because before that, you said you did a stint at the Red Cross, the Spanish Red Cross. So what was that like for you? Because I'm guessing there's something about being theoretical about these kind of challenges. You hear about them in the news. You know, we sort of hear them, see them. But what was it like for you to actually go out there or speak to people who are actually affected by these events?
Yeah, I had to fight for that opportunity because it was not normal to get someone who just graduated to be working firsthand with people who are, you know. So I was really excited to be there, but then it was a bit overwhelming because it felt like I suddenly had the lives of people in my hands, and in the humanitarian sector there is a lack of technology or technological, advances. And also there is a bit of hesitation with social innovation because you're working with people's lives. And when you innovate, you have a chance of things not working out. But in
the costs are high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where I was. I was really excited and I was really happy. It felt good to be useful. But then I also realized, by talking to these people, by spending time with them and understanding, trying to understand the pain of having to leave their countries, which is horrible, but also not just that, but the journey to safety. And because we normally, and especially now in the news, refugees are portrayed as these people who are coming here almost to invade us. And having worked in a program that was basically looking at all the people that don't make it, and the reasons behind it. And
when you say don't make it, you mean who die on the journey, who
disappear?
Who disappear?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the bit that I guess the hardest part was so every day I would come to the office and I had a pile of cases in Europe because I was in charge of finding people that disappeared in Europe, or that the people, European cases. So that pile never got smaller. Every day was bigger. And then I was seeing cases of siblings looking for each other, or, daughters saying, hey, when we were in the border between Iran and Turkey, suddenly, the smugglers told us that half of the family could go now and the other half would come later, and that other half never came. And that's something that happens constantly. And so, the empathy, like...
That must have been hard, though.
Yeah.
That must have been really hard, right? Because how old were you when that was going on?
20.
20.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're young. 20 years old, you're there, you're sitting there and you're hearing these stories of people trying to... Did that change your perception of refugees and of migrants in general? Did it give you kind of a human face to it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason why I empathize with them is because for me, the right to seek asylum, it's so it's an international right, and it's something that protects all of us. So I never saw them as different people. I always saw it as, okay, these are people who are forced to leave their countries, and they have the right to be protected. So I always saw it as, if this was me, and I mean, Spain not so long ago, we were going through a civil war, and you know, so many Spanish people left to South America, to Algeria. My grandmother was in Algeria, you know. So I think, hey, why are we now treating them with the respect with the lack of respect? And so that's why, sorry to go, but
no.
What I'm trying to say is that, no, it didn't change, because I always saw them as what they are, just human beings.
Yeah, get that.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, so what's the difference? Because I kind of read up a little bit about it before this interview, just to make sure I had a little bit of understanding. But for most people who don't understand the difference between migrants and refugees, like what's your way of explaining the difference?
I guess a migrant is someone who decides to go to another country. I'm a migrant here in London, right?
Yeah.
I chose to come here because I wanted. Now, if I was forced to leave Spain and my life is at risk and I'm not able to go back, then I'm not a migrant. And this is a really hard definition, because according to the law, at the end of the day, a refugee is a person who has been granted that title by the country that is hosting them. So there is a dilemma. By international law, you have the right to go seek asylum in another country for different reasons. So if your life is at stake, because of, I don't know by heart all the reasons.
Yeah, but like religion, sexual orientation, politic attribution, ethnicity, all the stuff. Yeah.
And climate change, for example, is not in there, but now there is a debate of whether it should be one of those. So so that's you as a person, it protects you, that law. However, you, according to that law, you have to be in the country where you need to be, you know, where you're safe, and you have to ask for asylum from there.
Okay, so you can't be, for example, in Sudan and ask for asylum in Spain from Sudan. You have to be in Spain and then you go, hey, I'm here, and I'm a refugee because I can't go back. Because one of the things I read about refugees is that they can't go back. It's not like if they're, you know, exactly what you said, by choice, is that they're forced to move. And it was quite moving. Like researching for this interview, I was going online and reading stories of people telling about their journeys and like just the horrific experiences that people go through, the actual life-threatening, family dividing and breaking stories that every people go through every single day. And so I think especially with what's happening right now around Brexit in the UK, a lot of people kind of like going, oh, we need to take control of our borders. There's almost like a nationalization that's happening across Europe around we need to protect our land. I had a guest on the show came previously called David Baker. We talked about this and he said, I don't think it's a resources problem. I think it's a nationalistic problem, right? It's not so much that we don't think that we can harbor people, it's that we get very kind of protective of what we have. And so what have you learned in this process about, as you said, it's a fundamental human right, the right to be able to be hosted as a refugee in a country. What have you learned about that process? What are some of the things that you can share with people listening to this who just are so far removed and all we hear about is in newspapers, but we have never spoken to someone? What do you want to say?
Yeah, so I guess the second part of what I was explaining before is that once the person asks for asylum, so risks his or her life to make it to that country where it's going to be safe, and then asks for the asylum right, then it's up to the country to decide, to that government to decide if they want to give it or not, even if the person ticks all the boxes. No, so that's it. Like, I guess what I want to say is that we cannot look at this as if these people are coming here to try to steal something from us. If you look at the statistics, I know I told you I'm not good with numbers, but I do know this really well, which is when you look at, for example, all the conflicts that are happening in the Middle East and all the people that are being forcibly displaced out of their countries and where they go, they stay in the neighboring country.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right?
I read that just before. Like the statistics says the majority of them are literally in the country next to their country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at PATH, we always say the first thing is that we are in the business of empathy. And this is really important because we need to put ourselves in that place. If suddenly tomorrow, let's touch wood that this doesn't happen, but if tomorrow something huge happens here and we both, we're brunette. So there is a law that says brunette people will be killed and we have to, we have to escape. We would not go, I don't know, to Saudi Arabia. Like that wouldn't be something that comes, at least to my, as a woman, I would never think, oh yeah, Saudi Arabia sounds cool. No, I'll go, imagine I were British, by the way, because obviously otherwise I'll go to Spain. But, you go to a place that it's close by, that the culture is similar to yours, and where you know that it's going to be easier to integrate. So no one would go to a place, by choice, to a place where they don't speak the language, the culture is so different. So what we need to understand is that those who actually make it here, they're the ones who either they were not, so they were first in the neighboring countries and that didn't work, or also they're the ones who have the best network, because it takes a lot to make it here and then to be able to survive in Europe to make it. And also it's not easy. Like the system is put in place to make sure that you don't make it. In terms of maybe you risk your life, but also the bureaucracy is, I have 2 degrees and a master's, and I've been working on this for more than 6 years, and I still sometimes don't get the system. So it amazes me to see people that don't speak the language and they have the patience and the resilience to keep going through, the process until they make it. So
that's crazy. Have you been to refugee camps or like these kind of centers? Yeah. What did you learn from that? So
when I decided to do this, to go for it, to try to find a solution for this refugee crisis, or a different solution, let's say, the first thing was I spent a lot of time visiting the refugee camps in Greece. And the reason why I chose Greece is because it's the country in Europe at that time with the biggest number of war refugees. So I went and I visited a couple of refugee camps and a lot of refugee centers. And it's just amazing to see how the people, first of all, the living conditions. They live in prison-like conditions. So a refugee camp in Greece normally is in the middle of nowhere. Many of them are either on the islands, and those ones are like, let's say, emergency response kind of camps. Those are for those who just come on the boats who make it. And they stay there, and that's like the first phase, and they can stay there for months, even years, some of them, until they are sent to another camp that is in mainland, so it's in Greece. And then those camps, like for example Katsika, which is where I did my pilot, they are in the middle of a military landing field, you say. So
air base?
Like the
Airfield.
Landing. You know where the planes land?
Yeah, airfield.
There.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you know here in the UK where those are? Because they're not in the city. Like, they're probably in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So these people suddenly are taking on a bus from the first camp to the second camp, and all they see is like this landing
airstrip,
thing, with a fence and lots of containers, like when you're building something, like those building containers, there is no, there's nothing there. And to me, what amazed me is to see that people are there for years and all they can do is wait. There's nothing else they can do. They just wait until...
What are they waiting for?
So they're waiting for their asylum petition to be studied by the government and then to be relocated somewhere else in Greece, or those whose family made it to another country, then they're trying to reunite with their families. And these people, I want to speak about them because these are people like you. These are the men who sent their wives and their children to safety first, and then they came after. And by the time they're coming and they're trying to reunite with them, it's impossible. And I've met so many men who tell me I'm married to a phone. I haven't met my kid because when my wife, I sent my wife, and I don't know my kid. And then, the law just says the only way to reunite is if they bring their family to the camp. So imagine the family made it to Germany and now the kids are at school, and they tell this man, if you want to see your wife again,
she has to come and
she has to come with the children and stay in this camp with you. Would you do that? I mean, let's go back to the empathy thing, no?
Yeah.
So what I found were lots of young people, and especially lots of people from 20 to the late 30s, mostly not just men, but there are lots of men because of this problem that I'm telling you about, who basically before they were forced to leave their countries, they were at university or they had a career, and suddenly, boom, everything changes. And I can talk, for example, I won't give names because I know these people,
sure.
and if they hear me, they might not want me to say who they are. But this friend of mine, he is from Afghanistan, and he's from an ethnic group that basically they don't want Afghans to look like that, so they are being attacked constantly and killed. And he was studying physics at university. He was in his third year. And then suddenly his university was bombed. And he, because he wants to have a future, he left, and obviously because he wants to save his life. And then he ended up, after being in different countries where he could not stay, they wouldn't allow him, he ended up making it to Greece. And when I met him, he kept studying physics on Skype with his phone, because he met this Spanish volunteer who put him in touch with a physics teacher at university. And it was amazing to see that, the eager the hope that one day he'll be able to be a physicist.
A physician.
A physician.
A physicist. I don't know.
keeps him going.
Yeah.
And so what I saw were like all this talent, all these people who now they are treated without dignity and like a number, but in fact they are not. They are people who have lots of skills and who all they want is a chance to move forward.
Yeah.
And so that's what I saw.
No, I see that. I love that. And there's it's funny. I don't know why I'm thinking about this. I don't know if you saw a film. Maybe you're a bit too young to remember it. It was a film called Time to Kill, with Matthew McConaughey, Samuel L. Jackson, Sandra Bullock, which is based in south of the United States, and it's about a crime that was committed on a young black girl, and her father takes revenge on the two white male who perpetrated this crime. And Matthew McConaughey becomes the lawyer of Samuel L. Jackson to try and defend him in this court. And the very ending, he basically tells the story of this little girl and how she was raped and abused and beat. And he says the whole story, and the pinnacle moment, spoiler alert for anybody who wants to see this film, stop listening now or watching now. He basically says, he asks the jury to close their eyes and tells the story. And then he goes, and now I want you to imagine that she's white. And you see the jury like just shifting and tears coming down. And I feel like what you're saying is the power of empathy is imagining yourself in the shoes of the people with whom you're interacting with. Was that something that was natural to you, or was that something that you had to learn?
It was obvious for me and for us. So we are three founders, Aida, Alvaro, and myself. And from the beginning, we thought, if it was us, if we were there, what would we need? And that's how it all started. Because so after spending, months understanding the context and where these people, how they are living and the options that they have and what is offered to them, etc. Then the next exercise that we did was we did like a call to action for all our network in London. And we said, hey, on a Saturday, from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m., we're going to be here. It was at Skills Matter. And we said, we're going to host a whole design thinking day where we're going to bring you the results of what Leti saw, because I was the only one who went at that time to Greece. But I recorded everything. I had, all these interviews. And we said, for 1 hour or 2 hours, you're just going to listen carefully of what we saw. And we asked them to get a Post-it and then write all the, ideas that came up,
ideation,
and questions that they had, etc. And then all of these people are co-founders, because they are experts in different industries, and they all brought, their knowledge to try to address the problem, but also their empathy, right? They thought from like, okay, imagine it's us. And that's why we say that Path started thinking, what if the brightest minds of our generation, together with the best companies and the best technology, would be solving the biggest or addressing the biggest problems of humanity. And that's what was happening in that room, because we had professionals and we had people representing different corporations, but we all spoke the same language, which was the language of empathy, and that it was about time to do something.
Yeah. And so Path was born.
Yeah.
And Paz means peace in Spanish, right?
Yeah.
Who came up with the name?
We did. Well, it's a long story, but I'll try to make it super short. We, at the beginning, because Path has iterated a couple of times. Like our mission has been the same from the beginning, which is to bring hope to refugees in Europe. That's simple. But then after we did our first pilot, which was about, it was a coding bootcamp in that camp for youngsters, because at the beginning, Path was very idealistic, and Path was going to be an online gaming platform that would connect youngsters in the refugee camps.
Oh, is that the crowdfunding campaign you did last year?
The Kickstarter
campaign, I saw that. Congratulations, you were overfunded.
It was amazing, because we had to hack Kickstarter a little bit, because at the beginning it says Kickstarter it's not for charities. And we are not a charity.
For a product or something. Yeah.
So we had to create a product. I don't know. It was amazing. But anyways, so at the beginning we were doing that. We were trying to find a way to connect these youngsters in the UK with the refugees, and together learn programming through challenges. And when we did that, we realized that actually hope for them through the pilot, we realized that hope means opportunities to move forward in life. And after they completed the boot camp and they put a lot of effort, we realized that yes, we're teaching them a skill that is super useful, but it takes a lot of time to master, and it's not something that tomorrow you're going to have a job. Because if you start from scratch, if there's any programmers listening to this, they know what I'm talking about. So that's when we decided to iterate a little bit, and instead of focusing on the youngsters, let's focus on those that we've called the high potential individuals. We believe everyone has potential, by the way, but this means people who before they had to leave their countries, they were either working in tech, or they were studying something related to tech, or they are just tech savvy. And they, in that sense, it takes us less effort to get them to a level where they are employable and to connect them with work. And once that happens, then they become the personification of hope for those youngsters that we were doing the pilot
Got
with.
it.
You see?
Yeah.
So, that's Path. At the end of the day, our vision in the long run, maybe in 10 years, is that it's called Path.ai, because we believe that if these people who are escaping war or violence could have let's see, someone else might build it. I actually, if someone builds it, great, because it's gonna save lots of lives. But basically, if they can have like a humanitarian assistant, AI assistant, who would, if they could ask instead of Google, because Google is not ready, but if they could ask, hey,
how do I see my family? How do I get my papers sold?
Where should I go? So that was kind of our vision. Like, this needs to be built. But who better than people who went through it themselves, who might have lost someone in that journey, and will be able to tell us, hey, it's really important that this AI assistant, does that. So that's why we're also focusing on high tech, and because one day Path will be hiring these people to build this. That's my personal, supervision.
I love it because it's simple. And I often find the best ideas are always super simple, right? So it's basically like, get them to learn how to code, create the code that's needed to create the solution on a bigger scale. Yeah, it's brilliant. Very exciting.
And we saw that all the AI, I don't know, like Alexa, or they're women. Like the name is a woman, so Paz in Spanish means peace, but it's also a name, like many women are called Paz. So we wanted both like that,
Okay, got it. So, because I looked at the video on your website, and predominantly it was men in the video, right? That like all the coders and the people learning. There was a few women in the videos, but majority men. Is that because in the refugee camps that you go to are primarily men? Or is it because less women come forward and want to learn about coding? I mean, what was that about?
Yeah, primarily men.
Okay.
And at the beginning, so it's true that there was a cultural shift that had to happen there, because when we started the boot camp, at the beginning, the girls were either at home, like helping the families, or they were looking after their siblings, or they were doing activities more like, I don't know, arts and crafts or sewing. And I mean, this still happens here in London. Like, so, but it took a few weeks of spending time and having lots of teas. I've had thousands of teas with the families and explaining to them, especially what was key was talking to the grandmothers, talking to the mothers, and getting them to understand that this is like their daughters learning technology was going to empower them so much. And I think it helped that I'm a woman and that I, but at the same time, many people tell me, if you focus this on just refugee women, your funding would go like, you'll suddenly get, millions. I don't want to do that, because I still think that this is something, yes, I'm putting a lot of effort to get more refugee women involved, but this is not about that. This is about, I cannot force someone to learn a skill just because I believe this is the future. I also need to accept that if they, men and women, they prefer to learn other things, that's okay. And that's why we are not trying to solve the whole refugee crisis by teaching everyone tech. No, we're just trying to be very smart about who are the people who want to have a career in tech.
Yeah.
And then we allow that to happen.
And so what did you learn from having 1,000 teas with people?
Wow. I learned, first of all, that these are the most peaceful people in the world. And it's so logical, but I never thought about it this way. When you've gone through war, or when you've gone through a super violent life period, and you're trying to start again, you are staying away from that as much as possible. So they are really strict, for example, with their children, or about having a very friendly and pacific behavior. And so they are so warm, and they put extra effort to prove to us that they're coming in good faith, and that they are super peaceful. So that was the first thing. Second thing, that how much they have to offer. So they speak languages we don't speak. They understand markets we don't understand. So all of these are suddenly, for me, they're really valuable things for the European market. And then, last but not least, if we look at technology is basically solutions to problems. Like, technologists are trying to create solutions. If you have the same kind of people looking at a problem, the kind of solutions that you create will always be addressing the same population. So you're forgetting about a big chunk of the world that could become your customer, but they won't be because you just are not creating solutions for them. And that's what I saw. I saw, wow, why are we are making it a crisis. We are the ones who are kind of saying no to all this talent and to all, but it's so stupid. And
how did the technology get involved? Like, how did you come up with the idea of coding? Because it doesn't sound like you studied coding at university. You were more on the humanitarian and social side of things. Like, where did the coding come in place?
I guess that's through my co-founders. And when I was doing my master's, when I started to create this bond with them, just because of friends in common. We're Spanish. I don't know. So imagine I spent hours reading about genocides and like horrible things. I couldn't sleep. It was too much.
I bet.
And then when I hung out with them, because they worked. So Aida works at Google. Alvaro at that time, he was working at Udacity. So they would invite me to all these events that were techie, and then I would meet people, other founders or just developers or software engineers, that they were working on problems, trying to solve problems that, in my opinion, with all my respect, but in my opinion, were silly. Like, they were not important problems. And one thing I saw...
How to have another pizza delivered faster to you.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, like... So when they asked me back, like, oh, but, what do you do? And then I started telling them about the problems I was trying to address. I could see their eyes, like, I don't know, glowing and being like, wow, I wish I could use my skills to solve those sort of problems and not just to make more Google ads or whatever. We make more people click in an ad. Like, so that was one of the things. And then second of all, the fourth industrial revolution. I mean, the workforce is changing, and automation is happening, and yes, they're trying to they are making it look like all these jobs are gonna be destroyed, but what people are not talking about are all these new jobs are being created, and they're like the companies or economy needs a workforce that is more digital and that is ready to face that fourth industrial revolution. So I saw in technology an opportunity, but I also saw that refugees can become a solution to the problem that all these companies are facing. And that's what I love, because until now, most organizations look at refugees as the ones that need help. Yeah. But I thought, they like the ones that need help.
I love that.
Are all these companies that they're fighting each other to steal developers, and hey, there is enough talent in the world
to go around.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, you always have these call centers that are kind of populated around the world. Imagine like there were coding centers of like all these refugees who are actually giving value back to companies, getting skills, and makes sense. It really makes sense. We're coming to the end of the interview. It's gone by really fast. You seem like someone who's kind of positive, at least from what you project, and, got charisma and that you got drive. What brings you down? Like, what are the things that makes you feel a bit down and a little bit deflated?
Stress, I guess, when I can take a lot on my plate, but I've realized that as a founder, sometimes we stretch ourselves way too thin. And when I reach that level of not doing the basics, eating, sleeping, exercising, taking breaks, then, I get to a point where I start feeling like I don't have the energy to do this, and then I doubt myself. So that's the only thing. Because to be honest, the same way you see it, like it's obvious, I see it the same way. So that's why I'm like, it's gonna happen. And we'll make it happen.
100%. That's really cool. Well, look, I want to acknowledge you for the work that you're doing, you and your team. I think it's a beautiful spin on a story that's been told in a very different light. I used to work in my first career, and one of the sentences we used to say in the advertorials, we say, like, traditional media says, if it bleeds, it leads. We love a good story of like some horrible stories, and refugees are coming to take over your resources, and terrorists are hidden, all this kind of stuff. Like, you always hear this kind of stuff. And what I love about kind of your story of path, it's like, it makes so much sense. We're all humans. We all have the ability, we have the innate ability for empathy. We all have it from birth. It's just a question of coming back home to it. So I think it's really cool that, you're trying to bring that back. So thank you on behalf of humanity for trying to help that back. What's one thing that most people don't know about you?
Oh, wow. That I have 7 siblings.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense now. You had to share from a young age.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're 8 in total or 7 total?
8 in total.
Wow. Where are you on the line of
Number 6?
Number 6. And how was that to grow up in a family of 8 kids?
It was crazy, but amazing at the same time. And I always tell my parents, like, what were you thinking? Like, it's not fair.
I'm a dad of 1 and about to become 2. Maybe by the time this comes out, probably have a second kid by now. I always go, congratulations to anyone who's got kids. 8? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, but at the same time, it means that you become really independent, and you also learn to work as a team. And for me, my siblings are, they are like my football team. And whenever bad things happen, they're always there. So amazing. Yeah.
The gang.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Mealtime must have been crazy. Can you imagine cooking for 8 kids? Oh my God.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I bet you I bet you
Fighting for the last croqueta. Yeah.
What does being unconventional mean to you?
It means everything, because I guess I always tell my friends that I just see the world in a different way, and that's okay, and they should accept it. So I've embraced it. I remember someone asked me, if you could give yourself an advice when you were 15, what would you tell that Leti? And it was that it's okay not to fit, because actually in the future that aspect of you that makes it hard to fit. And I have so many friends. It's not that I didn't have friends, but I always felt like, why is this supposed to be cool? Like, I don't get it, no? And at that time you're like, maybe I'm weird. And now I realize, no, that's what makes you unique. And that uniqueness, if you embrace it, and that unconventionality, it's so valuable, because I guess only people like that can go through a journey like Path.
Love it. Brilliant. That's so cool. If you could have one message on Piccadilly Circus, the digital billboards on the top, they're like electronic billboards, and you could write one message, right? So that people would see it, would walk every morning, every night, they'd see it. What would that message be?
Wow. Imagine I came up with a great tagline. I have no idea. Like, if not now, when? If not you, who? I guess.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. Love it. Where do you hang out most? Where can people connect if they want to continue this conversation, find out more about what you do? Where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Leti Galdón, or they can go on our website, path.ai, so paz.ai, and then they can write there, and I'll read it and connect with them.
Cool. Leti, thank you so much for coming on the show. So appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
And all the very best.
Thanks.
There you have it, folks. What a powerful conversation, right? It's one of these conversations that reminds me why I do what I do, why these podcasts and conversations matter. It just changes the way we see the world, the way we see each other. And we definitely need more empathy in the world, and to solve this crisis that's happening. And if we remember that we're all humans, then we're all the same. And if we're all the same, then we can treat each other a little bit better. So if you were moved in any kind of way by this conversation, let us know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe and leave a rating of an Apple podcast, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this, and someone who might have been shouting recently about refugees. Send them this episode. Might change the way they see the world. And of course, go and check out Leti's work at Paz over at paz.ai, and I can't wait to see you next time. I'll see you then. Today's episode is brought to you by Vivo Life. Now, we all know the critical importance of protein to sustain a healthy diet. And I'd love to sit here and tell you that we should all get that from whole foods. But the truth is, like me, you might be living a busy lifestyle. And I'm often running from meeting to meeting. And I was looking for the perfect protein powder that could help me sustain my energy throughout the day and also recover after my workouts. Problem is, most proteins out there are filled with sweeteners, artificial flavoring, and ingredients. And because they're made from mostly dairy products, tend to not really agree with my digestive system. So that's why in 2014, I started exploring and experimenting with plant-based proteins. But the truth is, back then, the taste, the texture, the smell was just a little nasty. And so I just put up with it, because I was looking for a plant-based protein that was good for your health, backed by science, and didn't do too much harm to the planet. But in 2017, something changed. I actually came across Vivo Life. Vivo Life make 100% natural health supplement and products that deliver straight to your door via carbon neutral delivery. Now, let me tell you, I was blown away. Not only did the protein taste great, it also looked amazing, it mixed well, but beyond that, it was by far the healthiest protein on the market that I could find. The reason being is that in every serving you get 25 grams of plant-based protein, and it's not just any protein, it's fermented protein, which is amazing for digestion. On top of that, you get 6 grams of branched-chain amino acids in each serving, and you also get some turmeric extract, which is phenomenal for anti-inflammatory properties, which helps me speed up my recovery. Now, what I usually do after a workout is I'll use some Madagascan vanilla or the salted maca caramel. Those are my 2 favorite flavors. I'll throw in a banana, maybe some dark leafy greens, some almond milk, some water, maybe some flax seeds, shake it all up, and it tastes amazing. So if you're looking for a healthy, natural, plant-based protein that's gonna get you results, tastes amazing, and does good for the planet, then head over to vivolife.co.uk and use the discount code MARK when you check out to get 10% off your first order. And remember, every purchase you make using the discount code helps support the Unconventionalists podcast. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for keeping the lights on in the studio. Hey gang, I wanted to remind you that if you want to launch your podcast and you don't want to spend years and a ton of money trying to figure out how and make mistakes along the way, then head over to theunconventionalists.com, click on online courses, and make sure to enter the code PODCASTTRIBE to get 20% off my brand new online video program that's called How to Launch a Successful Podcast from Scratch. I poured everything I know into that, my love, my heart, my knowledge, and my know-how for you. You can literally take that course from the comfort of your own home and launch a world-class podcast within days. So stop waiting, stop wasting time, head over to theunconventionalists.com and get your ticket to my online video program now. I'll see you in there.